What do you call someone who studies the weather? A climatologist. Someone who evaluates investments? A financial analyst. A person who studies DNA? A geneticist. Who researches markets? An economist. Who handles employees? An HR manager. And someone who does all these things? A farmer. At Pioneer, we're proud to work with generations of American farmers in the most complex and rewarding industry on earth. So from your friends at Pioneer, thank you, farmers.
I don't even know where to begin with today. I guess vaccine mandates are on the top of everybody's mind, not the least of which is because we actually have a potential vaccine mandate law that could become the real deal in Alabama. We got a lawmaker in northern Alabama who wants to prohibit Alabama businesses and agencies from requiring their employees or patrons from being immunized. In other words, you can't force people to be vaccinated to come in and use your restaurant. You can't force your employees to be vaccinated. That's the law that this guy wants to pass. It's Representative Richie Wharton, two-term Republican from Owens Crossroads. He says, I feel like it's my body, my choice. No one is going to tell me I have to put something in my body. It's not right. Okay. I see where you're coming from. I do. I'm a fan of freedom. I'm a big, big fan of freedom. We have our own situation at Cumulus. I think everyone is familiar with Dan Bongino. He's a guy who works for Cumulus. His show is on Cumulus stations in some areas. And he says, look, I'm vaccinated, but I don't like your mandate. So either you're going to get rid of the mandate or you can fire me. Those are your two choices. But you can either have the mandate or you can have me. I'm not going along with this thing peacefully. All right. Look, that's his take. Everyone is allowed their own take on this, I guess. And the chips fall where they may when it comes to these vaccine mandates. People love to talk about the freedom. I have the freedom to put what I want in my body. Yes, it's absolutely true. And the company for which you work has the freedom to say, we want you to be vaccinated if you're going to work here. Well, that's just not right. Oh, okay, but somehow it's okay for you to say that you don't want the vaccine under any circumstances. Look, freedom is a funny thing. It works in so many different ways. There's a lot of moving parts to freedom. I own a business. I'm free to say, I want you vaccinated, and if you're not vaccinated, you can't work here. You're free to say, I don't want to get vaccinated, so I'm leaving. You're free to say, I don't want to get vaccinated, but I still want to work here, and I'm free to say, well, it's too bad. If you're going to stay here and work, you're going to have to be vaccinated, and I fire you if you don't do so. Now, I think where people are really screwing up and missing the boat on this is things like antibody tests, people who already have the antibodies, people who have been through COVID, people who have the natural immunity. There are some people who've never had COVID who have natural immunity, by the way. There are some people for whom a vaccine it would be a dangerous thing. I actually know a couple of people who had what would be called medical deferrals for this, and their companies said, nope, that we're not accepting that, and they ended up leaving. One of them was a healthcare worker. And guess what? They went and found another job that would accept their medical exemption for not getting the vaccine. If I could change one thing about all of this, and trust me on this, there's not a whole lot that I want to change in this world. If I could change one thing about this, it would be we either want you vaccinated or we need a positive antibody test to prove that you're covered and that you're not in danger of, getting this and spreading it or being out of work or whatever. That would be, if any business is going to insist upon a mandate to work there, then they should also allow for a positive antibody test. And that would be the one change that I would make in all of this. I would not change, you can't mandate vaccine. You can. We, as business owners, we have the ability in the United States of America to say, oh, you smoke? No, you can't work here. Well, I won't smoke at work. It doesn't matter. You're already on the short list of unhealthy people. I don't want unhealthy people working here. I want only healthy people working here. You're going to have more health problems. You're going to use the health insurance more. It's going to cost this company more. So as long as you're a smoker, you don't get to work here. That's actually been upheld by the Supreme Court. You can do that. Now, I find it hard to believe, by the way, that we can do that, but we can't do that with obesity. We can't say, oh, no, you're more than 40% overweight, I'm sorry. You can't work here because you're going to have significantly greater health issues and greater health problems as a result of that, so we really can't hire you. Won't allow that to happen, but we will allow, I guess, smoking and obesity are not exactly the same thing, but to a large degree, obesity is a choice. To a large degree, not in every case, but to a large degree, obesity is a choice. So my take on the vaccine mandate might be a little bit different than what you guys are thinking. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject, but just the idea that no one should have a vaccine mandate. No, that's not America. If you're a business owner, you get to have a vaccine mandate if you want one. And your employees get to act accordingly if they don't feel like getting vaccinated. They can leave. They can stay and get vaccinated. They can stay and get fired. Other places say, no, we're not going to have a vaccine mandate. It's not that important to us. If you don't get vaccinated, the only person you're really hurting is yourself. I tend to agree with that as well. If I had a business, I doubt I would have a vaccine mandate. I don't think I would. But I also wouldn't take away the freedom from those who own businesses to have a vaccine mandate if they want one. Where I really, really fall out of line with all of this is where the government becomes insistent, as has been the case now with Joe Biden and his OSHA mandate. He says that OSHA is now going to make this a workplace violation. Still hasn't happened, by the way. None of the paperwork has been done on that. He made an announcement, and nothing has been done legally to pass this into any kind of form of law or regulation or rule or anything of that nature. Just the announcing of it seems to have been enough to throw a lot of businesses into a tizzy. You know, Cumulus came up with their vaccine mandate some time ago. I'd already been vaccinated by the time they came up with it, which is kind of interesting. And most of us had been by that point. I'd also already had the disease. But I thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and get 2 in the arm because I don't want to get it again. And if I do get it again, I want it to be a very minor case. But I look at what's going on right now and I say, other than the government being involved, everything is going the way it's supposed to. If you take that government mandate away, which, again, has not ever actually been acted upon, no legal process has been put in place. It's not even really an OSHA regulation as of yet. And if it were, you'd already be hearing about lawsuits being filed. The reason you haven't heard about lawsuits being filed is because no paperwork has been done on the issue. There are Republicans sitting on ready, waiting for go. Lawyers who want nothing more than to pounce on this as a civil rights violation. And they can't do anything because it's not technically a law or a regulation as of yet. So they're cooling their heels and waiting for that to happen. In the meantime, businesses are losing their ever-loving minds. Now, let's look at this from the standpoint of how it's going to affect our society. Police officers, firefighters, healthcare workers, these are 3 big mandated occupations, right? Healthcare workers across the board being told, you have to get this vaccination or you can't work here. And bunches have been fired. UAB, by the way, rescinded their vaccine mandate of their healthcare workers when they realized we were going to lose an awful lot of people if we continue to pursue this thing, and decided to go with a more gentle coaxing way of handling the situation. But there are places where, we lost 140 nurses here. We lost 214 medical professionals over there, some EMTs who aren't going to be around anymore. That it puts a huge hole in the industry. We saw what happened to Southwest Airlines, about a week and a half ago? When Southwest Airlines, they had a sick out. They can't claim it's a sick out. They all had to deny that it was happening. But that's exactly what they were doing. They were showing what happens when over 10% of the pilots don't show up for work one day. When that happens, and if Southwest decides they're going to continue this process and maintain this process and enforce this mandate, and they have to fire however many pilots there are that aren't vaccinated, well, you can expect them to have to do some really fast tap dancing to make sure that they can cover their routes, and they won't be able to. Because we saw what happens when just 10% of their pilots and workforce does not show up on one weekend. Police officers in San Francisco, we are hearing now, there are going to be some emergency calls that simply don't get answered. Tracy McCray, VP of the San Francisco Police Officers Association, said during an interview, there's a possibility calls will go unanswered as the vaccine mandate for police officers goes into effect. As many as 120 or more police officers, 80 of whom have been on active patrol duty up until now, are slated to lose their jobs mere hours from the time of this interview. McCrary states that the interview with interview with a local news outlet in a city this size, with the month of October and all the things that have been going on, the loss of officers due to the vaccine mandate, that's going to put quite a dent in operations. 120 police officers out of San Francisco. Is that a good idea to allow that to happen? Is that something that we should encourage? I don't know. Look, everyone has to make their own decision. Everyone has to come to their own conclusion. And that means business owners, municipalities, each individual, civil servants, everyone has to make their own mind up about what is going to work best. Best for your company, best for you. I just don't feel that more legislation, in the same way I'm against there being any sort of law mandating vaccinations, I'm against any sort of law saying you're not allowed to mandate vaccinations. And then everybody gets to sort of live with the consequences of their decisions.